GT3 for over 25 years now. That badge has been the holy grail for Porsche fans. Not the fastest, not the widest or most outrageous, but the one. But Porsche Motorsport always managed to eke out just a little bit more. Today we're driving the second generation 992 GT3, so I guess the only question is, have they done it again? We're going to find out by driving on the racetrack, on the road, manual and PDK, plus we're going to have a guest appearance from its big brother, the GT3 RS. So a lot to do, let's get on with it. But maybe there's a bit more going on here. It feels like Porsche is pushing very hard just to stand still or maybe find incremental improvements. Of course, there's also a new reality. The GT3 isn't the holy grail. The latest RS has pushed to new extremes. It's a game changer. And there's a Manti package that goes completely nuts. On the other hand, the slightly more classical, lighter and stunningly gorgeous ST is the new darling of Porsche fans. It's like the GT3 isn't it anymore. It's a stop on the way to somewhere else, somewhere better.
And it's almost like Porsche know that, because now more than ever, you can take the GT3 in two distinctly different directions. One pushes it more towards the track and the RS, and one more towards the road and the ST. So I guess the GT3 can be almost a GT3 RS and almost a 911 ST. But shouldn't it just be its own thing, stripped out, focused? That's what I think a GT3 is. I want it to just be the car.
Porsche has tweaked and honed as usual. There's revised suspension geometry, shorter bump stops and new damper strategies to keep the platform more stable, sculpted downforce-inducing suspension wishbones from an RS to provide cylinder heads and camshafts to combat ever tighter emissions legislation, and whilst power remains 503 horsepower and torque drops from 347 pounds-foot to 332, the final drive is 8% shorter.
Although my fear was effectively that the car would either stand still due to all the legislation it's got to fight, or maybe just not feel as exciting and as special as those other cars. Immediately it feels pretty good. Of course we are into incremental changes. It's the GT3 way. But you can feel them immediately. The anti-dive that they talked about quite a lot, so from 200 kilometers an hour to zero if you do a full stop. In the previous car, the front would drop 12 mil, that's down to 6 mil. But you can actually feel that the platform is more stable on turning. When you're asking it to brake, change direction, feels just a little bit flatter, a bit more precise. Same with the steering. They've worked hard with this friction compensation system to make sure, no matter the temperature, if the tolerances are slightly out somewhere, that the power steering compensates for that and gives you consistency. But all the strong points remain, of course. The engine is fantastic. I'm on track. You might think I should be in PDK, but the manual box adds so much excitement and interaction, keeps you busy. I'll sacrifice a few tenths to have the manual, that's for sure. Brakes, fantastic. It's still a GT3, and it's just clicked up a little bit. It seems to ride curbs better as well. Just a little bit more compliance. It's got shorter bump stops, so when you hit those big curbs, it can take those curb strikes more in its stride. It's just mega. And it's still got the balance, still got that ability to drive even when you're sliding the car.
So the GT3 is really good, and the Pope is still Catholic. But let's get some insight into the direction taken from a man instrumental in its development, His name is Jörg Bergmeister, former factory racer, overall winner of the Daytona 24 Hours, and now deeply involved in 911 road car development. I know there's a lot to talk about, but we don't have, unfortunately, time to go into every little detail. What I want to talk to you today about is what you identified in the old car 992 GT3 and what you wanted to improve and how you did it, basically.
I wouldn't necessarily say we identified anything, but obviously in the progress of developing the GT3 RS, we learned a lot and also changed the philosophy a little bit on how we do the damping.
Okay.
So we shortened the bump stop in the front, and therefore, for me, the car is incredible, no over curbs on bumps.
Okay, so when you change that, you shorten the bump stop, it gives you more suspension travel,
Exactly,
effectively.
yeah. So therefore, obviously, the damper needs to be able to take more force, needs to have enough power to control the movement of the body. But the engineers really did a great job there and really makes a huge difference.
Now, it's been a huge struggle to keep ahead of legislation, effectively, just to maintain where you are. Having driven it briefly on track, to me, it feels like it really pulls. The gearing makes quite a difference.
Yeah, the shorter gearing definitely helps. I mean, it's super fun on the track. I've driven it plenty on the Nordschleife. Gearing there is also good, so really makes fun.
One more thing,
Yes.
GT3 RS I-Door, fantastic. The ST, I think a lot of people have really liked that car because it was a slightly more supple car than the GT3. Where does this sit if you had Gen 1 GT3, ST here? Is it somewhere in the middle? How has that worked out?
On the damping side, definitely more oriented on the GT3 RS side.
Okay.
So it's definitely more track focused, but still I think you would drive it on the road as well. I think it's still pretty comfortable on normal roads, but definitely the track focus is there.
Okay, and you haven't released a Nürburgring time yet for this car. What are you expecting compared to the previous?
Good question. I don't know yet. We'll see. It will be a surprise, I guess.
Okay, stay tuned for that. But yeah, great to speak to Jörg.
Thank you.
Mega car, and he talks about curb striking. Nobody uses curbs like this man, so he knows. So while I suspect the prevailing narrative from this GT3 launch will be that it moves chassis-wise a little towards the ST, its real inspiration is the mighty RS. Is that a good thing? Let's find out. Just look at this thing. It's absurd, stupid, horribly OTT, and I absolutely love it. For me, it is the most Porsche of Porsches, obsessive, extreme, truly derived from motorsport and capable of things that the raw horsepower figures alone could never convey. And while there are cars with much more power now, more technology, this thing still eats pretty much anything on the biggest, baddest racetrack on planet Earth. So how do you emerge from the shadow of the GT3 RS? And what qualities do we want to find in the new GT3 that are served up so perfectly in this car? So I just want to get the essence of what makes this thing so cool. And I think more than anything, it's the sense of absolute clarity of purpose. This thing is built to get you around the Nürburgring or Silverstone or Laguna Seca, wherever it is, as quickly as possible. It is a classic example of Porsche doing absolutely everything for one specific aim. But just like many times in the past, by trying to build a proper homologation car or motorsport drive track focused 911, they've inadvertently built a fantastic road car. Yes, the RS is about as extreme as road cars get. Sometimes, especially on a really bumpy road, a bit too extreme. But despite a DRS button, all that aero and the adjustable suspension creating the impression that it's all too much, the reality is that the RS is completely enthralling at any speed. There's so much that's special about this thing that doesn't even require you to go that quickly for it to feel focused and honed and just this absolute precision tool. The way it looks, obviously, the fact you look in the rear mirror and see that huge rear wing, the fact I've got DRS buttons and I can play with suspension, it just makes it so much fun to be in and be around. There's just a sense of theatre and slight
stupidity in some ways, but it's wildly over-endowed in so many ways for the road. But it feels so exciting just going slowly. Despite this absolute precision and agility and turning response you wouldn't believe, and this really tough ride quality, the platform's so stable, it manages to feel more like a 911 than other 992s. There's more sense of the weight distribution. You still want to use the old 911 techniques to get the best from it. It's more 911, even though it's operating at such a high level.
The RS is intense, dramatic and outrageously capable. I'm not surprised lessons learnt here have informed the new GT3, but it's too much for some. So can you emulate this car without being completely overshadowed by the real thing, or creating a road car that's too hardcore for all but the most committed? Let's get back to the GT3, this time on Spain's gorgeous roads.
From the glorious ridiculousness of that GT3 RS to look the sublime, the car the internet loses its mind for, we now have a Touring. Even better, we have it in oak green. We've got these California gold wheels. These are the aluminium wheels, not the magnesium ones. And get ready for this, internet. Prepare to have your mind blown. This is a GT3 Touring with the rear seat package and the folding buckets. I'm going to try and get in. I'm like 6'6", 6'7", something like that. This is my driving position. Oh. Yeah, I can. Okay, I could live happily in here for 7 or 8 seconds, I think, before being deeply uncomfortable. But it is quite cool, and I get it. You know, the beauty of 911s is you can stick kids in the back of them. Okay, other things. These folding buckets you've seen, carbon back, and then they now have this removable headrest cushion. So when I'm on a track day, I can wear a helmet, not have my head forced forward. It's quite a cool little trinket, isn't it? And then if you come in here, as I sit down, different to other 992s, is I don't have a start button. I still have this. It's not quite a key. In the press conference, they actually lamented not having a key anymore, and I tend to agree. But before I sound truly ancient, at least we now have this starter. I'm going to start it up and then show you the drive mode. So if you come around here, we basically have normal mode, twist it to sport, twist it to track. There's only 2 chassis modes. Even in normal mode, it starts on sport. Track modes, it goes stiffer again. But you can also configure those modes as well. So in the dash, I can have it in track mode, but I can have the sports exhaust system off, for example, if you're at a track day with really restrictive noise regulations, that sort of thing. So there's quite a lot of configurability above and beyond Visac pack, lightweight pack, touring, standard car. There's an awful lot to play with in this car, and like I say, this is the cliche car. Personally, I would always have one with a wing and 2 seats. I've got kids and 4 seats is cool. I just couldn't not get the very best, lightest version. So it's a wing all day for me, but let's try this thing on the road. We know it's already pretty special on the track. Let's go and light it up on the road.
Yes, the Visac pack, available on the wing car, and lightweight pack, which is an option on the Touring. Remember, the price for the GT3 has already jumped considerably to £157,300. For £19,537 extra, the Visac pack adds carbon fibre anti-roll bars, coupling rods and rear shear panel. There's also a carbon fibre roof, side plates for the rear wing in carbon, mirror shells and the air blades at the front. Plus race text in the interior, carbon fibre door handles and lighter door trim panels, plus a carbon fibre roll cage. The lightweight pack is even more money, £29,223. It's similar to the Visac pack beneath the skin, but also brings a shorter ST gear lever for manual equipped cars, plus magnesium wheels, which are a £13,759 option when specified separately. Big money to add to the big expectations heaped on any GT3.
I want to get onto the RS comparison a little bit later, but the other sort of elephant in the room is the ST, isn't it? Is this car effectively an ST in all but name. We saw with the 991.2 generation, 911R came out, everyone had babies about that car, and then the Gen 2 GT3 came out with a manual box, and it was like, I think it was a better car actually than the 911R. So have they repeated the trick, or have they changed the focus somehow to give those cars distinct personality? Well, for me the answer is different this time. This does not feel like an ST. It's just a little bit more responsive, bit more, it's got rear wheel steering, which the ST doesn't have. It feels keener to turn. The ST has this lovely trick of feeling small and old school, and this doesn't quite have that, but it counters it with this unbelievable flat body control, which is a real improvement over the last car even. And yet it still feels like a 911 on the way out of the corners. That lovely sense that you're just a cork coming out of a bottle, you know, that rear engine traction, which I just love. So if you're hoping for a cut price ST, I don't think it's that car. This feels a bit more focused, a bit more serious. It's not just, I don't know, pure recreation. There's something more going on here. This thing wants to get stuck in. And the ride is so hard to comment in Spain. Spain is the land of fantastic roads, so you can get a bit wrong-footed. But I think it does ride a bit more consistently. Like I say, it's got this flatness, which is above and beyond the last car, but it doesn't seem to have brought with it added stiffness and discomfort. But this just stunning turn-in response. And that does call to mind that RS. It's not as outrageous. Some people would find the RS way too much and way too nervous, if you like. It's not, but it's hyper responsive. This, you can take a breath a little bit more, but it feels beautiful front to rear. You can pitch it into corners and you just feel the rear working absolutely as hard as the front. Really fine balance and such amazing precision, because you can brake, change direction, accelerate, and the car just seems to stay flat. Now often artificial anti-roll systems feel just that. You don't get any signals through the car. This doesn't have that problem. There's proper feedback in this car, not quite the feel of the RS, when that you can really feel when the front is at the limit in that car. But it's so agile and light for a physically quite big car now, especially compared to 911s of old. You can thread it down roads like this and just be so committed on the throttle. It's properly on it and just light the thing up. I've got no traction or stability on at the minute, and it just doesn't matter. I've got such predictability. I can feel absolutely when I'm pushing too hard. It's fun. It's really, really fun. Dynamically, it's a different flavour to an ST, but it's right up there. Right up there.
So there's balance and response in abundance, plus that engine remains a true masterpiece and the PDK box is supremely quick. For me, the manual brings the car even more to life and is the choice on road or track, but there is no wrong answer here. This Touring has standard brakes, and whilst they can't match the endurance of ceramics, the stopping power is huge and you'd never get them to fade on the road. Most importantly, the GT3 mostly eradicates thoughts of the ST and RS. It's complete, cohesive and deeply exciting. The calmer, more consistent steering response and sophisticated platform control is a step on from the last car, yet feel and feedback remain the core of the GT3's appeal. In short, it delivers on the road. But such is its appetite for maximum attack, the siren call of the racetrack is impossible to ignore.
25 years they've been building these things, and it's bizarre but true. No one's nailed the formula like this. No one's even really tried. Fantastic road car that still works so well on track. It's got so much durability, precision. It just feels built to do this. And it's special. No wonder nobody takes on the GT3. You just can't beat it. It's just got too much good stuff going for it. The RS is something extraordinary and different. The ST's got this lovely throwback sensibility, but if you have a GT3, if you get there, whether it's your first or your 10th, you can be happy. You do not need an RS or an ST. This thing is fantastic. Porsche does it again. There's a surprise, huh?